Hey there, my name's Porsha Lauri. Welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube channel. When I started watching this movie, I really started to think about these vehicle films that were so popular for the music artist turned actor wave that was kind of going on a lot in the early 2000s. In Crossroads, we have Britney Spears, but she is not the only or the first to kind of cross genres, to go from, you know, being a staple on the radio and in people's stereo systems to becoming a character for the masses to enjoy. Honestly, when I think of Britney Spears, I still think also Christina Aguilera, due to the fact that they share a similar career path, as well as both of them appearing on the Mickey Mouse Club together. So I thought I'd really like to explore some of these vehicle and or vanity films that are made that help singers to transition into acting. And I thought I should start off with the two pop princesses themselves, Miss Britney Spears and Miss Christina Aguilera. I've decided to do a two-part series and we'll just kind of see how it goes. If you guys enjoy this, I'd love to create more, so please let me know what you think of this. But today we will be taking a deeper look at the movie Crossroads with Miss Britney Spears. Now, if that sounds interesting to you and you like hearing my opinion about all things music, movies, and pop culture-y things, do me a solid and drop a like on this video, then run over to that subscribe button, hit the bell next to it so you can be notified every time I upload. And if you cannot get enough of my opinion, you can head on over to the Cinema Sit Down podcast. It's a podcast I co-host with my boyfriend and his best friend, and we just sit around and we talk about movies. It's a whole lot of fun, and we'd love if you joined us. With all that out of the way, let's talk about Miss Britney Spears. Before we get into Crossroads, we have to cover the history of how Britney Spears got into the industry to begin with. Now, this is going to be an extremely abridged version of Britney's come-up story. If you want a full breakdown from the time she started in the business all the way through where we are at currently, I highly suggest you go check out this video. It is by a creator named Mila Tequila. It breaks down all of Britney's career eras, as well as a little bit of insight into what was going on behind the scenes. So if you're ever interested in a 2-hour deep dive on the life of Britney Spears, I highly suggest you check out that video. But as I mentioned, we will do an extremely abridged version to get us up to 2002. So as many pop princesses begin in their early life, she did sing in her church choir. She participated in pageants, as she is from the dirty South, Louisiana to be specific. And this is where she began cultivating her talents. She would also begin taking singing lessons as well as dance lessons. Now, she auditioned to be part of the new Mickey Mouse Club, which was a reboot of the original 50s sitcom that was going to be geared for the 90s set of kids. And at first, when she auditioned, she was turned away due to being too young. If you are wondering what the Mickey Mouse Club sort of looked like, basically the new Mickey Mouse Club and the original were kind of a variety show, or, you know, you might model it like a child's SNL, similar to the same vein of all that. However, with the Mickey Mouse Club, they also had sections and features of the kids doing covers of various popular songs. So at first, Britney was turned away, but she was eventually given a call back. During the time in between this, she had actually moved to New York and was pursuing working on Broadway as, you know, like a theater kid actor. She's got singing, she's got dancing, and, you know, she's also learning how to act and be on a set and kind of get into the groove of what that looks like to be a professional when you're, you know, a child. In 1992, the MMC gave Britney another call and she was casted on that season. And I believe she would go on to do 2 seasons of the show before the show was ultimately canceled. Britney would join a cast that would feature so many people who are continuous Hollywood staples to this day. She was surrounded by famous faces that you might recognize, like Ryan Gosling, Kerry Russell, Christina Aguilera, Justin Timberlake, JC Chasez, and many, many more. Now, after the show was canceled in 1994, she did take off some time to be a somewhat normal kid. This, you can actually get a lot of insight on if you read her book. She talks about, you know, kind of what it was like to go from being almost famous, the edge of famous, and, you know, having some money, to going back to being on and off from having money and financial struggles for her family, plus going to school and social hierarchy and boys and dating. She delves into this period of her life a little bit more in detail in her book, so if you're interested in that, highly check it out. I've read her book, I think, twice now. Now, even though she had the opportunity to kind of remain a regular kid and kind of, you know, just live her life that way, she ultimately always wanted to pursue music. It was her dream to be a singer in whatever capacity that might be. So she began to, again, take singing lessons, get an agent, and start working on demos to give out to record companies to hopefully secure a deal. Now, Britney ended up getting signed with Jive Records, which is a record company that I believe no longer exists, but it was under the RCA umbrella. And I only bring that up because there's an RCA ad at the beginning of Crossroads, so I could tell she was still under this original contract by the time she was making Crossroads. Now, of course, this led to the infamous mall tours throughout the timeline of her touring that she is getting increasingly more and more popular. Baby One More Time is, of course, one of the biggest singles of 1998, 99. It sold upwards of 30 million copies, so, you know, she was doing something right. And by the way, I mean not the single, but the album sold 30 million copies, and it was like the biggest album release for a teenage girl in history, so pretty dang cool. She was also nominated for some Grammys, but it would be a very long time before Britney would win any Grammys. Now, as mentioned, we are speed running this, so we're just gonna move straight on over into album number 2, which is Oops, I Did It Again. This would go on to sell $1.3 million, but you would see this severe kind of spike downwards with the sales of her second album. And I think it's very important to note that this was the era of Napster, of LimeWire, of when people realized that instead of paying for music, they could simply rip it off. I think that very much says why there was such a decline in sales. She got even bigger with the release of her second album. So don't let the numbers necessarily fool you. She was absolutely at the top of her game. Now, during this era, we would get her first performance on MTV at the VMAs. This would be the infamous Michael Jackson Satisfaction routine, where she rips off the suit and she's wearing the nude bodysuit underneath. This was incredibly controversial, which is a word that would follow Britney forever. Love to be mad at her for just being an artist and doing artistic things. But I didn't want to talk about any of that, so I am merely just talking about career. We are not talking about public opinion of Britney Spears, because if we did that, we'd be here all day. We would jump forward to 2001. We would see her host the American Music Awards alongside LL Cool J. In the same year, she would also perform at the Super Bowl. This was a huge Super Bowl. I remember the Super Bowl very vividly, but she performed alongside NSYNC, Aerosmith, I want to say Missy Elliott might have been on that stage. It was this huge, like, mega performance. It's totally worth watching. It was so fun to watch back then, and it's still fun now. And then later in 2001, we would see her perform yet again at the VMAs, and this is the Slave For You performance featuring The Snake. Now, this performance would precede her third album dropping, Britney, in November of 2001. This would kind of show a different side of Britney. We had definitely grown up more. We were past the virginal stage of her career, and we were experimenting with like more hip-hop beats, kind of dirtier, more sex-driven lyrics, a different side of Britney Spears. Now, after dropping Britney, this is also an era where artists wouldn't necessarily go on tour because the album sales were good. They would go on tour to promote more sales of the album. And so the tour was already pre-planned out, and she would be going on the Dream Within a Dream tour, which she would do until it was time to film her first movie. And now it's time to do a little bit of background into Crossroads and how that came to be. Britney and her team decided that they wanted to venture into the world of movies and TV shows. Britney really wanted to kind of be taken seriously in the actor's lane, and so they began to kind of figure out how to best maneuver this. Now, I believe they had given her scripts of things we probably heard of, I don't know, but nothing was quite catching her attention, and allegedly she really wanted to tell a story that felt very personal to her. So this is where they brought in Shonda Rhimes. Shonda Rhimes would sit down with Britney. She would get her feedback on kind of what she was looking for, and then Shonda basically created a movie around what Britney was looking to play on screen. Now, another pretty big rarity when it comes to movies of the early 2000s and really just before the 2010s, this movie was an extremely female-led production. They had a female writer, a female director, as well as a female producer. And that is pretty damn unheard of in the early 2000s. All the feminine energy shows in this movie. I just feel like there are better fleshed out characters than I'm used to seeing in what I would describe as like your kind of typical little cliche girls movie. Now, allegedly, the filmmaking process was actually really fun. The vibes were really great on set. A lot of people who were casted, that they signed on to do the movie because they wanted to meet Britney Spears. And what a great reputation Britney must have to make other celebrities excited to meet her. I say this because there's always stories going around about celebrities actually being mean in real life or whatever. But there's a handful where you almost never hear negative stuff about them. Britney is one of those people. Our lovely lady Kim Cattrall, who plays her mother in the movie, said just nothing but the loveliest stuff about her, and that totally warms my heart as a huge Samantha fan. This can also be true for Justin Long, who also just said he really wanted to meet Britney Spears, and he's in the movie very briefly, and I just thought that that's so sweet. He was just like willing to do this little side part. And now it's time to break down Crossroads. Valedictorian Lucy has spent her high school career playing it safe and listening to her father, but when a childhood friend offers her a one-way ticket out of town, she decides to take a leap of faith. On a road trip initially planned to reunite with her biological mother, it turns into a summer of growing up and being true to yourself. Now, as big of a Britney fan as I was, I didn't watch this for a few years after it came out.
There she is, officers, right there.
The movie opened up with 3 girls burying a bunch of things in a time capsule that they were gonna dig up when they graduated high school. We have Lucy prancing around her bedroom, singing to Madonna as she's getting ready for her high school graduation later that afternoon. Her dad comes in to tell her, you better know your speech. Why is he so aggressive with her? He's so aggressive all the time. Not only is Britney's dad really pushy about the whole speech thing, but he's very clearly been pushing her to go into the medical field to be a doctor. We go off to school and we don't have a full day at school. It's that half day seniors do where they basically have to come in and do a dress rehearsal of the graduation, and then they'll just come back for graduation later. But it gives us an opportunity to meet all of our main leads. We see Lucy talking to her lab partner Henry, played by Justin Long, and they are talking about their agreement and how they're gonna meet up after prom tonight. We move on, and the next character we meet is Mimi. And Mimi is kind of the classic tough around the edges, sassy, she's not afraid to speak her mind. I have to say, Taryn Manning out here just embodying that role. It does feel very natural. Is she a walking cliche? 100%. But it works for the character that she's playing because I think she plays it with a lot of honesty. We also meet Kit, who plays the very popular, very shallow, mean girl. And she does that with just great expertise. I really like her character by the end of the movie. At first I was like, ooh, she's annoying. Is she gonna be like this the whole time? Come around to her personality and she comes around as well. So yeah, even though she is a side character, I would like to say she does kind of stand out with her with the way that she plays her roles. She does a good job of making that character stick out in my mind. Now later at graduation, we are seeing everyone come up and congratulate the kids, and the music teacher comes up to Lucy and says, you know, it was lovely having you in class. Are you considering pursuing a future in music? You're so talented. And before she can respond, her dad butts in to say, you know, no, she's off to med school. And she seems pretty apprehensive and not excited about this at all. She's just used to saying yes to whatever dad wants. This gives us the knowledge now that she is a singer. Now we are at the prom. Again, they graduated and had prom in the same night because we got to get this road trip happening. But Mimi is going around and asking if Lucy and Kit are going to meet up with her that night. And so this is now that night. Even though they are not all still friends, Mimi's hoping that they will all still get together to dig up this box as a sort of last hurrah and an ending of their childhood. So they both tell Mimi no because they've got better things to do. And we follow Kit to go inside where she becomes homecoming queen and she has eyes for the hot guitar player. And then we go over to Lucy, who is trying to do that, oh, I'm gonna lose my V card on prom night with my lab partner, whom I trust very much. But this doesn't actually end up going well for Justin. And she decides,
stop it! No means no!
Shock and awe, all three girls end up going to the place where they buried their time capsule to dig it up together. So they end up showing up. They have this very cute moment where they all explain what they put into the box and what it represented, and they all go off on their separate ways. Now, before they depart, and she says, you know, I'm hitching a ride out to LA. I'm going to this big singing audition. If you guys want to come and like sing backup, that would be really cool. If you know, I leave at 8 a.m. on Sunday. Now, this is where we get to circle back and we are talking about why Britney and her dad have the relationship that they do. And we find out this is due to the fact that when Britney was really little, her mother just picked up and left one day and never returned. She doesn't send any letters, she doesn't make phone calls, never makes any attempt to be part of Lucy's life in any capacity. This kind of sets up why Britney is so loyal to her dad. She kind of feels like she has to fill the void of love, if that makes sense, in a totally like respectful, like not creepy way. Meanwhile, we go over and we find that Kit is engaged to this guy who had graduated the year prior, and he's out in LA going to school, but he's all busy with finals for the summer.
Are you cheating on me?
I've been there. You'll go learn today. And so we get to Sunday morning and guess what? All the girls are there. Shock and awe. They all end up there at 8 a.m. to go on this crazy road trip. Although Lucy says, you can drop me off in Arizona. I'm not going to the audition. Now, when they show up for this road trip excursion to the coast, they meet their driver, Ben.
Here comes the smolder.
And Ben has a questionable past, might have killed a guy and spent some time in jail. And it is very, very, very obvious Ben definitely has the hots for Lucy. Now, for time's sake, because this video is already very long as I can tell, we are going to kind of speed run the remainder of the movie. So over time, we see that Kit and Mimi really start out the trip being just at each other's throats for most of it, bickering constantly and making small little jabs at each other. But over time, we see them bond. We see them start to understand each other better. We see them opening up to one another. And while all of this is going on, we're kind of starting to see Lucy and Ben start their slow burn romance. Now, at first, Lucy's pretty open with Ben, but then she becomes closed off when she finds out that he may or may not have killed someone. Eventually, they are able to open back up to each other, and we watch their relationship develop slowly over time. Ben isn't a musician, but he plays music. Like, he plays piano at one point, and we see him in the opening shot playing guitar. So I'm gonna say he's a multifaceted musician, but he's got a musical ear. So again, important. Now, of course, this is a road trip movie, so we can't have a road trip movie without having a big, expensive car wreck, accident, explosion, things failing. You know the drill. So obviously the car explodes and the radiator's bad. I know this because Lucy determines this because we have that hot girl looking into a car motif that was it in every early 2000s movie? I think so. Now, of course, no one came prepared or made a plan for this trip at all, so they have just enough money to survive, so when they get in the car accident, they don't have any money. You know what's happening. Now, luckily, in order to get Lucy not to flee and go home to her daddy, Mimi says, hey, there's a singing contest and we could probably earn the prize money. But it's basically one of these karaoke places where if they like you, you get tips from the audience during your song. So you can make as much money or as little money, but at least it's somewhat reasonable as to why they make some money back. Now, why this karaoke bar in the middle of Louisiana is popping like this on a rando day, who knows? Not our business. The important thing is that Lucy sings I Love Rock and Roll, brings down the house, and they win enough cash for the trip, the car, and then some. So, you know, all's well that ends well. Again, this is our first real scene of seeing Lucy singing. So after they win all the prize money, they have a debaucherous night. Now, it's not very debaucherous. It's really not that big of a deal. I didn't even realize that they were supposed to be drinking alcohol because they're not really acting as if they are drunk. But allegedly, the girls start drinking. Everyone except for Mimi, obviously, because she's preggers. But this leads to them hanging out, they're partying together, they're laughing together, and they're bonding together. They're sharing some deep stuff that all three of them had missed out on each other's lives in the amount of time that they have not been friends. Kit talks about how the best thing in her life has been to lose all of the weight because she was considered a fat kid growing up. But also the worst thing that's ever happened is that she is no longer the fat kid because now she's prettier than her mom, and that's an issue. Lucy talks about the abandonment that she feels from her mom, but that she's really confident that her mom wants to see her. She's just afraid, and that's why she's going to Arizona to see her. And Mimi reveals her pregnancy is actually due to the fact that she was SA'd. Now we're all bonded up. The girls finally confront Ben and he tells them about his jail time, which had absolutely nothing to do with murdering and was all in the greater good for other people. So he is redeemed, and this allows him and Lucy to then really start to form a bond and get really close to one another. They finally get to Arizona and Lucy goes to see her mom. We don't see the scene where she ultimately tells Lucy off, but it's very, very clear in the scene between Lucy and her mom, aka Kim Cattrall, that she's not happy to see her there, she's not excited to see her there, and she's doing her best to be polite, but is trying to be like, get the hell out of here. And what we find out from Lucy later on is that she said she was a mistake. She was forced to have Lucy, but she never wanted her. She also learned while she was at her mom's home that she has brothers. Like her mom has a whole new family. So they actually stuck around in town and they just got a hotel and they were like, we're gonna be here for the night. So if anything like goes wrong or you need us, like just give us a holler. And she ends up just showing up at their hotel room. Now, after this, they all end up getting back into the car and it's time to finish out the trip and get all the way to LA. And that's where they find them. We see them frolicking on a beach. Mimi is so happy and Lucy starts to hypothesize what it would be like if she just stayed in LA. You know, there's tons of schools here. She could apply and get in somewhere. And, you know, she could start her new life on the coast in a completely different new area away from her dad and not being worried about her mom and exploring where this first love might go. Now they all go back to the hotel and this is where Ben and Lucy stay behind and they have a little love time, a love sesh, a cuddle puddle, if you will.
Oh my god, that is so gross.
Meanwhile, Kit and Mimi, they actually end up going to confront Kit's fiance. From the time Kit decided that she was gonna go to LA to see him, she made 0 phone calls to him. So she was planning to just surprise him and be in the same city, thinking it was going to be very, very sweet and a cute little like romantic gesture. She heads over, she calls him and she says, "Hey, surprise, I'm in Los Angeles. You said you couldn't get away, so I came to you." And he is less than thrilled and continues to tell her that he's very busy with school and he does not have time to see her. So we finally get over to his door. Surprise, surprise, the man is cheating on her. And so once she figures this out, she starts to kind of notice something. Right when she opened up the door and talked to her fiance, he said hello to Mimi. And Mimi is just being very quiet, very dismissive, and is about just like 10 feet away from them. Kit starts to notice the distance, the body language, and then she has an aha moment. Mimi got pregnant over winter break when Kit's fiance was in town proposing to her and essayed Mimi. So the true father is not Kurt, who is the guy she was dating before this all went down. It actually is Kit's fiance's baby. And so when she realizes this, she's like, "Oh no, like you need to, like you tell him what he did." But Mimi gets frustrated and so she flails and runs away. She's running towards the stairs. Kit hauls back and gives her ex-fiance now a good punch in the nose, which is what Mimi had been training her for. Now, unfortunately, when Mimi gets to the stairs, she looks back to say something but trips over her feet and ends up falling down the stairs. This is a pretty intense moment because we end up in the next scene, which is in the hospital. Lucy and Ben are there and they find out that Mimi is gonna be okay, but unfortunately she lost the baby. And I think due to all of this like super adult stuff going on, Lucy is like, "All right, it's time to call my dad." Periodically throughout the movie, she has been kind of calling her dad so that he knows that she's alive, but she's been avoiding having any deeper conversation. So finally she caves. I think this is the point where she was like, "I need an adult," and he comes in to save the day. And so he comes in, he yells at her, of course, but eventually he calms down and says, "You know, I'm taking all of you girls home now." So they're all getting ready to go home. It's the end of the trip. It's obviously sad. Kit apologizes to Mimi for not realizing what was going on, but of course she didn't know. And Mimi tells her, you know, what a great job she did by hitting him. So yeah, it's all kind of somber and sad, and clearly they're all gonna go home. Lucy has to more or less tell Ben, and she's like, you know, it's just time. Like, I have to go back to like being in my life, and like I can't abandon him because like I know what that feels like. So of course they're all getting into the cab, big crescendo ending. They're saying goodbye, and then Lucy realizes, you know, I can't do this. So she tells her dad, like, don't make me do what she did. Don't make me run away. Let me go. And so she gets out of the car and she runs into Ben's arms. And we are to understand from here that Lucy is gonna go to the audition and see what happens and stay in LA and explore things with Ben. And so they all end up going over to the music showcase where they watch Lucy perform live, and we see her dad in the audience. He's got tears in his eyes, so you can see that like, wow, this is something she is really passionate about. He's come around and he's just like, okay, I'm gonna let my daughter like do her thing. Meanwhile, Mimi and Kit are singing backup for her, which I'm surprised Mimi is allowed to like be standing and stuff. Like, she was really far along in her pregnancy, so I'm surprised she's not like bedridden by now. And that's actually where we end the movie. The song she performs, by the way, is I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman, which would be the big ballad song on the Britney album of 2001. So very, very fitting that they would put it in the movie. And then we shoot over to the credits where we get one of my favorite Britney songs, Overprotected, while we have some bloopers and whatnot playing in the background. And that is Crossroads. And now we'll get into my thoughts and opinions. So as I was saying, as I was describing the movie, I do not think this is Shonda's best work. However, I think the bones of it are really good. I love that the message of the film was about strength in friendships, in communication, in loving yourself, caring for yourself. I do think that the characters did lack some depth. It would be nice to have a more fleshed out main lead character, because if I'm being honest, I don't know that Lucy was quite as fleshed out as Kit or even Mimi in some spaces. So I wish we could have done a little bit more with that. I do think that the performances are very genuine. Like I said before with Taryn Manning's character playing Mimi, apparently when she did the audition, she just walked into the room and embodied that character. Like, they didn't have to see anybody else. They didn't have to test. They knew that she had that role. I can't picture someone else necessarily playing that role, and it wasn't that the role was that unique, it's just the uniqueness that she brought to it, I thought made it feel real. I thought Zoe Saldana did a lovely job. You know, it's hard to play the mean girl that you love to hate but then just love at the end. So I thought she did a great job with that. It is very similar to the role that she plays in Center Stage, where she again is kind of like a pretty mean girl. I thought Ben was okay. I think he brought as much to that role as he could, because I don't think Ben really had a whole lot to go off of, to be honest. I think he just had to be the resident sort of attractive, semi-witty driver. And he did that with ease. Would love if his character had any personality.
Boring.
In my original notes, I wanted Mimi to be searching for something, like like for her storyline just in general. I didn't want Mimi to be pregnant. I wish that she was just on the search for something bigger than her hometown. And ultimately the lesson that she would learn is that the power comes within her to make her life better. So it doesn't matter where she is, you're the same person no matter where you are. It's about your ambition, your goals, and like what you do with the circumstances handed to you. If that had happened, then Kit's storyline of finding out that her boyfriend was cheating could have just been it. Like, it could have just been her finding out that her fiance was cheating on her, and she would have learned how to punch him from Mimi, and we could have just like had that scene. Whatever. I didn't really enjoy the who's the daddy game. I thought that was a little bit unnecessary, a little tacky. And again, it's feeding into the cliches of like the fact that Mimi is supposed to be from a trailer park, and it's indicated that she doesn't have a lot of money because Kit's always kind of making remarks about how poor she is. So like, I didn't need the added bonus of like, not only is she trailer trash, but she's pregnant and a teenager. Like, I really didn't need that sub storyline. I liked how they at least subverted it a little bit by being like, well, it wasn't just like her being a teenager and being irresponsible. It actually was an assault. I don't know if I feel as strongly about this anymore, but tell me in the comments, was Mimi's storyline something that you enjoyed watching? Is it something that you wish had changed? The thing I do like about it is they were dealing with some stuff that, again, we don't see a whole lot in mainstream movies. It should be showcased so that they feel like heard, like they have a voice. So I'm on the fence. Tell me what you guys think. Was that character a deal breaker for you at all? Also, something I would have changed a bit is Lucy's character. I think that we could have included more information about how she felt about music, not just the fact that she was talented. I understand that people around her found her talented and enjoyed listening to her sing, but I didn't feel like I knew enough about her to know what her actual passion was. Like, it was clear she didn't want to go to med school. It was clear she didn't really want to be a doctor. She wasn't passionate about any of that. But what was she passionate about besides writing poetry? Because you can want to write poetry or like enjoy writing music. That doesn't necessarily mean that you want to be a recording artist. I feel like there could have been more depth if we really talked about like what she had imagined her music career could look like, but her dad told her no one time, and so she stopped asking about it. Or developing the bio mom stuff. Like, I wish she had talked about her mom even more. Like, I wish she had been bringing up every chance she got on the trip, so that way it would kind of be twice as devastating when we find out that she is actual human shit. But those are things that I wish could have been tweaked just a little bit differently, and then I think the film would have felt less cliche. Now, I say again, I am extremely biased. However, hear me out. I think Britney killed it in this movie. I really do. I really think she's so good. There are so many moments where I was like, it's Lucy. And then I was like, oh yeah, but it's also Britney Spears. Like, I know in this video I'm calling her Britney a lot, but I really felt like she did something there. Like, she did the damn thing. Like, she really tried to like not be America's pop princess. I don't know. I'm just saying, I think that she was making a genuine effort to really become a different character, and I think that she succeeded. I did think she had pretty damn good chemistry with Anson Mount, who is the guy that plays Ben. I thought that they had good chemistry. I really enjoyed their scenes together, more so now even as an adult than I did when I was a kid. I thought that they had a subtlety about them that made me feel like their love story was realistic. I really enjoyed that. And of course, her bond with Kit and Mimi, Zoe Saldana and Taryn Manning is incomparable. Specifically, I have to point out the night that they win all the money at the karaoke contest and they're partying that night. There are tons of clips that you can hear of Britney's genuine, real laugh. And I absolutely love this. I know as a fan, like, that's her genuine laugh, but in the movie, I feel like I'm having fun with my girlfriends too. I love that so much. It was so important to me. Also, I would like to note that in that karaoke scene, there's no, like, they don't do some kind of random choreographed, like, fast dance routine. They just perform like I would imagine teenagers would perform karaoke on stage. And that also kept the movie feeling grounded to me, where I didn't start thinking like this is Britney Spears. I was watching Lucy. I was watching Britney as Lucy perform, and that felt more consistent with the film. And also, shout out, since you know Britney is the main character of the movie, so she kind of gets to have scenes with everyone for the most part. I really enjoyed her relationship with Dan Aykroyd as her dad. I thought she did a good job showcasing that she loved him, but she was also frustrated by him with a lot of, again, subtlety. And I thought her scene with Kim Cattrall was chef's kiss, no notes. I thought it was really, really well done on both sides, and her breakdown afterwards was done to me impeccably. I have no notes. I really thought she was phenomenal. But overall, I do find Crossroads to be a really fun comfort watch for me. To me, it's like this is Britney at the top of her game, and it makes me remember that time and just how happy the pop music scene was during that time. So that will wrap up my discussion of Crossroads. As I mentioned before, this is a two-parter, so please make sure that you are hitting that subscribe button because you're not going to want to miss my follow-up Burlesque with Miss Christina Aguilera. And some of my final thoughts on Crossroads and Britney Spears' future career. One, I wish we could have gotten another feature film. I'm really disappointed that we have yet to get another feature film. I know that they are talking about doing a Britney biopic, but obviously I don't foresee Britney playing herself in a biopic. But I'm hoping that she'll be working on set or giving direction, or like, I don't know. I hope she's working in some capacity on that movie. But I would love to see her in something full length. If you can't get enough Britney acting, you know, you can check out the couple of episodes that she's on of How I Met Your Mother. If you were unaware, she actually helped to revitalize that show, and her appearance on the show like quadrupled ratings or something and helped keep the show alive. And she's phenomenal in like the 2 episodes she's on that show. And then the only other thing I can think of to recommend if you want to see Britney acting more is her SNL skits are really good. They're really funny. I think she hosted SNL twice, so it's worth going to go check out. Those clips of her are really funny. She also did a skit with Jimmy Fallon doing the like, oh my god, like his character. But that's gonna do it for me and Crossroads. I could talk about Britney Spears until the wheels fall off, so if you want any more Britney specific content, you just let me know. Tell me your thoughts and opinions. Do you have any favorite characters from Crossroads? Do you have any favorite moments? If I made more parts to this series, who else would you like me to see covered? There is a ton of Mouseketeers that I could cover, but let me know if there's anyone else you would like to see showcased in this kind of pop star to actor timeline. And the next time we join, we will talk about Christina Aguilera and her musical Burlesque. But until then, make sure you hit the subscribe, make sure you hit the like button. If you want more of me, make sure that you check out the podcast. Everything will be linked in the description box below. You can follow me on all my social medias. Those will also be linked in the box below. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.